Hello and welcome back to Football and Next Moneyball. Today we've got another pick of the day for you, and today's pick is a player I've been holding since summer, with little reward as he's been injured. But he returned last weekend with an assist from the bench, and he came off the bench again today. So I think this is a great time to make this video as he's still flying under the radar. But if things go well, the current price might not last for long. In today's video, we'll look at how despite a tough season last year with a relegated team in a PB league, he managed to post some very impressive key stats, and how his current transfer status could possibly help his price in the long run. Then to finish off, we have another great set of target profits for you, and that's without even reaching for some of the higher priced players in this category. Before we get going, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. If you want to be notified when new videos come out, you can hit the bell icon, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can search for @IndexMoneyball. So for today's pick, the player I've gone for is Juan Camillo Hernandez, otherwise known as Cucho Hernandez. So Cucho is a 20-year-old Colombian striker who's currently on loan with Real Mallorca from Watford. Something I wanted to point out here is I've purposely not gone for a transfer speculation player here, as for me the boom for these types of players has already begun. I'd made a lot of recommendations to those types of players in the last few months, but I think as a long-term trader you need to look past the current situation and plan for the next one. Hence why at the start of the winter break I'm looking more at who could benefit once the season restarts again and people start to move their money back out of the transfer speculation holds and into the wider market. So today Cucho made his third appearance in his comeback from injury, coming off the bench at about 60-minute mark. Last weekend he also came on for 45 minutes and grabbed an assist for the equalising goal away at Celta Vigo. So while this might not seem like a big deal, this is a player I had very high hopes for in the summer, and it's been a long wait waiting for him to come back from injury, and it was surprisingly difficult to get any information on what was actually wrong with him, so I didn't have any idea when he was going to be back. So I've basically been checking the squad list every game to see if he was on the bench, as I think that this could be a player that once he gets a good performance, then there's a good potential of a rise due to the fact that he's on loan from Watford. If we look here at the 6-month graph for Cucho, you can see that at the end of last season he had a big spike going from 53p up to 90p in just under a month. This was down to the loan ending and the chance that he might play in the Prem next season. And I think this is one of the things that I really like about this pick. In the worst case scenario where he doesn't manage to get much game time at Mallorca in the rest of the season, if Watford managed to stay in the Prem, then there's a good chance you could see a similar reaction as the end of the season approaches. So he got up to a peak score of 94, and I talked last video about how peak scores are a good idea of what you could expect to see from a player if they do start hitting form. Considering the growth from May to now, that 94p would equate to probably closer to £2. So I think at 80p this could be a really good entry point. He's just started to get an uptick, as people have noticed he's coming back from injury, so he's come back from about 74p. So you're still getting him within 10% of his low in the last few months. So with 20-year-old players, there's not much history to go off, so this may end up being a shorter video than some of the most recent ones. But one of the more interesting things about this player is that he's actually played a pretty decent amount of senior football. I've come over to Transfermarkt to his career stats, and you can see that all of his data we have on him is from senior football, most of which he played on loan at Spanish side Huesca on a 2-year loan which ended last summer. During those 2 years, Cucho played the first season in La Liga 2, helping Huesca to second in the league, securing an incredible 16 goals and 8 assists as an 18-year-old. This equated to him being involved in 39% of their goals that season, having played 35 of their 42 games. So that actually works out that he played 80% of the games and he was involved in 40% of their goals. So following Huesca's promotion, Cucho then spent last season playing in La Liga, where he managed a modest but still respectable 4 goals and 3 assists as they finished second bottom and were relegated back to La Liga 2. That leaves him with career stats so far of 73 games, 20 goals and 10 assists at a combined rate of 0.52 per 90. And considering that he's missed half of this season through injury, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a player with so much senior experience at his age and for under £1 on the index. In terms of his positional stats, he's played 62 of 72 games as a centre forward, and then he's featured a couple of times on the wings. So by and large, he's actually more of a classic striker than some of the other picks that I've had for forwards recently. So now if we come over to FootMob, I've already talked you through most of his major stats, so I just want to jump into last season's detailed stats and see how those were. Now this for me was what really blew me away when I started doing the research for Cucho as a potential pick of the day. With 32 key passes, 68 shots and 75 attempted dribbles, he ends up with 1.3, 2.8 and 3.1 per game in those areas respectively. These are absolutely huge figures for a 19-year-old playing in a PB league, especially for a team that got relegated. And although I don't know how much easier this season's going to be with him with Mallorca since they're 4th from bottom currently, To me, from these stats, it looks as though he actually got pretty unlucky last season to not have a better total for goals and assists, more similar to his first season at Huesca. Now for the profit target analysis. I actually had a decent selection of options for today's analysis. So I've used all 20-year-old strikers. Cucho doesn't turn 21 until April, so I think this is a good group of players to get a feel for what kind of price a 20-year-old striker is demanding on the index right now. For my comparable options, I went for Borja Garcas at Atletico Madrid and Tyler Roberts from Leeds. There were a few cheaper options like Mayalida and Ganogo at Nice and Niane at Metz, but I decided it would be confusing if I used such a big price difference between my purchase options, and as I've said before in the series, the difference in price between a good player and a great player is huge, which can be demonstrated by another 20-year-old striker that I didn't use here, in Kylian Mbappe, who's currently £6.57, which equates to just shy of the cost of all the players used in today's analysis combined. So when looking at these three players, Borja Garcas is an interesting one, who's had a lot of hype around him recently. He returned from an ACL injury from Atletico B team in the start of December, but so far he's only made one senior appearance from the bench last September, and he only got his injury in March this year, so there's not much evidence to suggest that he's going to be breaking through to the first team anytime soon. That's not to say he's a bad investment though, and to be honest I haven't seen him play, but considering the level of experience that Cucho has and the likelihood of game time, I think it's an obvious choice which one to go with. Then for Tyler Roberts, this is another player who's not been featuring much for his club lately. He made a string of substitute appearances and a couple of starts for Leeds between September and November before getting injured. But if you add the lack of game time to the fact that he's not playing in a PB league, then again I think this is a bit of a no-brainer. For my low target today, I could have gone for a pick of one of three players with Matías Cunha, Andre Pinamonte and Dejan Jovelic all priced between 94 and 97p. I mention this because two of those three players are getting very limited game time and have less of a proven record than Cucho, which I think is relevant for what I expect to see from the short-term price. In the end I went for Pinamonte at Genoa, who's played the most of these three players. He's played 14 appearances so far this season, and in those appearances he's managed 2 goals and 2 assists. His average PB score is 26 and his peak score is 153. His senior goal and assist record works out to 0.4 per 90, and he does have 44 appearances, so similar to Cucho, he actually has a pretty decent sample size for a young striker. This is a little lower than Cucho's total of 0.52 per 90, but Pinamonte has played all of his games in Serie A, whereas Cucho had a big season in La Liga too, so I would say that they're a pretty close match, to be honest. So this price is what I'd expect to see Cucho at in the short term, or if anything just above. And as I mentioned, at the beginning of this section there are two players who are also this price who have 429 league minutes between them, so I think it's a fairly conservative estimate. For my mid-price target I've gone for Alex Isak, who's actually another player I hold, and he's actually one of my favourite holds, as I got him originally at the start of last season for somewhere around 50p I think. Now again I had a couple of similar priced options here with Rafael Leo and Justin Kluivert, both within a couple of pence of Isak. But in my opinion, Isak is the better of the three in terms of his record and the fact that he actually has won top forward dividends before playing for Sweden. He has the highest career average goal and assist record of all the players that we're looking at in today's analysis at 0.74 per 90. And this includes a loan spell in the Eredivisie last season where he scored 13 goals and got 7 assists in 16 games. But limited playing time this season has seen him drop down around 30p from his peak at the beginning of the season, so I think Cucho, if he starts a few games in a row and scores some goals, then his price could be achievable in the next few months. Then for my high target I went for Victor Osimhen. Now I could have gone for either Daniel Marlon or João Felix, as they both fall into the 20-year-old forward category too and are both higher priced, so just keep in mind that this is the lower of the top end targets. And as we'll see, this still provides some pretty incredible returns. Osimhen is the only player I've used in today's analysis who's actually playing and scoring regularly, to the point where traders have taken notice and his name's been linked with some transfers. Up until now, he did have the advantage of European football, but as Lille finished bottom of the group, they're now done for this season. So that leaves this a bit better of a comparison. So far this season, Osimhen has played 17 games and scored 9 goals with 3 assists. Lille are currently 3rd place in the French league, which does help his price as well. So I think this is definitely an ambitious price, but if Cucho were to nail down a starting spot and find some of the form that he showed in his first season at Huesca, I think that it's not totally unrealistic to see this as a potential benchmark when you consider the added value of being able to possibly play in the Prem next season. So that leaves us with a profit target range of 14% for the low, 60% for the mid and 162% for the high. These prices are definitely mid to long term targets for me, as with the winter break there's only 2 potential PB eligible games for Cucho in the next 30 days and only 3 before the start of February. But I think with the mid-price target, it could be achievable within a few months, and if things went well, I would not be surprised to see him hitting the high target within 12 months. That's all we've got for you on today's pick. Again, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment and subscribe. Also, if you know someone else who might like the video, then sharing with them would really help me out. There are links in the description for signing up to Football Index and Football Index Edge if you haven't already. And don't forget to check out the other videos on the channel for more strategy videos and the other picks of the day. Most picks are long-term holds with depressed prices for some reason or other, so often the picks can still offer the same value, if not better, a few weeks after. And the research methods and reasoning can help if you're new to the index and want to learn to analyse your own players. Thanks for watching, good luck on the index.